I want to preface this video by saying that I understand that when a game that you love and are waiting for is delayed, it is not the most fun thing in the world. I've had it happen to me before with many games where I get to a point where I'm so excited for it and then they announce that it's delayed for a year, maybe a few months, or maybe even just like a couple of weeks, and it still kind of stings a little bit because you want so badly to play this game and you love the franchise, or you're just excited for a new IP, and it can kind of feel bad sometimes. I have nothing against that whatsoever. We all feel that. We can't help how we feel in some situations. But I'm going to make this video today as a discussion type video and talk about why I think that delays more often than not help games rather than hurt them. And I'm going to use a few examples today that have hurt me and a few examples that honestly have benefited my enjoyment of video games as time has gone on. If you do not know, I'm a big fan of JRPGs and survival horror games and adventure games. Those are like the three genres that I dip in and out of all the time. But one genre game you might not know that I'm really into is the WWE games. I like playing them. I think they're fun. I think it's fun to play as like different characters and beat each other up, and like it's fun to play with a friend as well. You know, jumping off ladders, smashing people through tables. It's always very fun. You can tell where I'm going with this. You might have heard that recently WWE 2K20 released, and it's releasing to harsh reviews and harsh response from fans. Now, I'm not one of those people that is ever for, like, you know, mass harsh responses, but in this case, it seems like it's just too blatant to ignore. It is a subpar product that was released too quickly. And I understand the circumstances behind it. They were under a lot of pressure. They were working with a new engine. And a lot of people who were working on the game were left to work on the game with little to no experience with the engine that they were using. That is tough. But that is not what I'm upset about in this situation. I will never be upset at the worker who is working his ass off or her ass off in the room for days on end trying to get a product out for us. Those people are amazing. The directors, the writers, the actual designers themselves that sit there and code the game are fantastic. It is the company that is above them that should be held accountable always for a game being rushed out. It's always a bad thing to do, and it will always hurt you in the end, or at least hurt your game franchise in the end. And in this case, will burn a lot of your fans and make a lot of them not come back. And in this case, that's what happened to me. Since the PlayStation 1, SmackDown 1, I was, I think, around 5 years old. I'm 24 now. I have bought every single WWE game. And yeah, this is the first year that I've skipped, ever. And I had to, because I could not in good consciousness buy this game and support it in any way, because I feel like that sends like a really wrong message. You should always vote with your wallet, not with abuse. You should never abuse anyone. You should never be so mean on the internet that you should abuse any developers. No one ever deserves that whatsoever. I'm saying that right now. Nobody ever deserves that. But in this case, I voted with my wallet and I was like, I'm not going to buy this game. Now, if they had more time with this game, could it be better? Possibly. There's no way of knowing. But there is history to back up the idea that if you delay a game, it eventually will be great. We all know that quote from Miyamoto. I'm not going to say it now, we all know it, but basically he would reiterate my statement and say that if a game is delayed, it could eventually be good, but if it's rushed out, it will be bad. The Last of Us was delayed just this week, along with a few other Ubisoft games as well that were also delayed. A few years back, Assassin's Creed Origins was delayed, or they took a year off to make the game and work a little bit longer on the game itself. Breath of the Wild was delayed. Persona 5 was delayed. The original Last of Us was delayed. Uncharted 4 was delayed. BioShock originally was delayed. Now, all those games that I'm listing out, apart from The Last of Us 2 since we haven't played it, all of those games that I just listed have benefited from a delay. In a few ways. First of all, it gives the developers more time to polish the game, so in the end you get a better product. In the end you will always get at least more polished product. Whether the game is going to be good or not always comes down to preference, and I think it's always hard to gauge, but I think that in those cases you can tell The few extra months or even the extra years helped the game immensely. You look at something like Breath of the Wild. We were all sitting there, and not everybody, but a lot of people were sitting there saying this game is probably going to have a lot of problems when it comes out because of all the delays. There's clearly a massive issue here. And it turns out that the delays not only helped, but it helped improve the game to the point that it is one of the highest rated games of all time. Assassin's Creed was getting more and more bad reviews. People saying that it was just getting tired and people were not enjoying it as much as they used to. They took a year off, worked more on Assassin's Creed Origins, and it was the one of the most highest rated games in the Assassin's Creed franchise. And not only that, but one of the highest selling. People are still playing it to this day. I have no doubt in my mind that games that are delayed always have more polish on them. But not only that, it's good for the developer. I'm not talking about the guys who are higher up in their office taking all the money, thinking of ways to get your money. I'm talking about the worker who is in the office working their ass off. Giving them more time so they do not have to work so hard to the point that they're in the same clothes for days on end. They never see their families. The extra time gives them that extra bit of comfort that any worker should get, and especially people who are working so hard to make things that we love, which are video games. I am 100% all for delays in this situation. To give you a few more examples of games that were delayed, games like Batman Arkham Knight was delayed, Dragon Age Inquisition, Twilight Princess was delayed, The Witcher 3, Bloodborne was delayed, which Bloodborne, if you look at Bloodborne, to me, is one of the most amazing games of all time, and again, one of the highest rated games of all time. Again, the original Last of Us, Grand Theft Auto was delayed, Super Smash Bros. Brawl was delayed. I mean, come on, it's not always a benefit. It's not always a thing where we can sit here and go, delays always help the game. Because in some cases, games are just not salvageable. Games are just not able to be saved. We know this. We've seen this before. We've seen games being delayed over and over again and then come out to bad reviews. It happens. But in my own personal take, I look at a game like W2K20, and I look at a game that hasn't come out yet, like The Last of Us 2, and I can only look at those games and say 100% that I'm all for a delay if it benefits the player in the end, and I think that it will. It will not only benefit the player, but the company itself, and it will benefit the people working on it. You look at something as well with Ubisoft, like the Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot saying that they delayed a few upcoming games until either 2020 or 2021. The reason being, they looked at a game like Ghost Recon that they recently released, and they saw the poor reception that it got, and they realized that they need more time in between each game release. And that type of honesty is refreshing. It's so refreshing to hear, and I'm all for it. I am willing to wait an extra year for a video game that I love. When Persona 6 is announced, and let's say they say it's coming out in 2022, and then it gets to 2021, and they say, hey, we need an extra year to work on this game, I will say, do it. Let it cook, because honest to God, I would rather play a fantastic Persona 6 game than an average or poor Persona 6 game that was released in 2022, rather than 2023, if you understand what I'm saying. As always, guys, I think it's just a benefit. I think it's just a benefit for everybody. Everyone comes out as winners in the end, and I think in the long run, in terms of business practices, it works out better in the end. You've seen recently that WWE2K20 have had to apologize for their game being so poor and saying that they're going to fix it, but there's no way that they can have enough patches to fix all the problems with this game. Because if someone like me who has bought the games every single year is skipping them this year, that says something. And I'm not the only one. I know so many people that are skipping it this year that would buy it every single year. My friend Wayne, off of that I've gotten to know on occasion, has said he's going to skip it too, and he's bought them the same as me every single year. I think in the short term, releasing bad games quickly and rushed will help your company make some money, but I think in the long run, it's going to only hurt your perception in the end. Because next year, with WWE 2K21, I don't think fans are going to be as forgiving when they see a basic trailer of a wrestler doing something cool, and they're like, well, tell us what the features are. Tell us what the updates are. Tell us how this game is looking now. Tell us how this game is running now. And that's why I commend games or companies like Nintendo who delay games quite a bit to make sure that they have enough time to work on them. The same with games, companies like Naughty Dog, who release, even though I'm not a big fan of their games, they release constant quality every time they release a game. Companies like Atlas, Sega, delay the games. I'm ending it on this. I'd rather play a fantastic game than a rushed, broken game. And I would rather play a game that was worked on comfortably than someone who was slaving over the game to the point of mental and physical pain. Thank you guys for watching. Give your opinion down in the comment section below as well. I know this is a bit long-winded, but it's something that I really cared about and I wanted to talk about, and a discussion that I think that was kind of needed for myself to kind of vent, and not only vent, but to hear your guys' opinions as well. Again, it's okay to be upset about delays, but just don't attack anyone over it. I think that's what we have to understand here and now.